So I'm going to be doing a new series where I read a lot of my old favorites and see if I still like them. So that's why the video is titled, Do I Still Like? And today we're talking about the Summer I Turned Pretty series. I was telling my friend of mine to read this book that I really, really love, and she read it and she didn't really like it, and she was like, do you think you'd still like it if you read it now? And I was like, let's find out. It wasn't this series. The book I forced her to read was Looking for Alaska. I have recently watched like the series, so I want to give it a little bit of time before I try to reread it because I did like the series. But this book series is one that I probably read like 8th grade. It was one of the first early series that I really read, and I absolutely loved it. I have the series and then one of the new cover copies because I would really love to have the new covers. But these are the original books that I've had, so I haven't ever gotten any new ones. This series I would read and then I would reread like once every year up until halfway through high school, and I kind of stopped. So about 4 or 5 years I was like reading this one, at least one of the books every year. But this book consistently stayed one of my favorites. One of the reasons that I remember loving it is that it does deal with grief, and that has always been like one of my favorite topics in young adult literature ever since I started reading young adult. I loved the themes and ideas of grief and how they affect characters, and even now as someone who has dealt with grief in real life, I still love reading about it. I attempted to do this in a vlog style, but then I realized that these books are like, the audiobook is like 6 hours long, and I listen to it at 2 times speed, and so I get through it super fast, and I listen to it when I go to work, sometimes in the morning when I'm at work and when I come home, and so I can't really film all that much when I'm doing it. I do sometimes listen to it when I'm at home cleaning, which you'll actually see. Hopefully as I get further into this series, the vlog parts will be a lot better. Because it's really sad, like very sad. So first I kind of want to just tell you what the book is about. It's about this girl named Belly, who her mom and her brother Steven always go to her mom's best friend Susanna's house for the summer, and Susanna has 2 boys, the Fisher boys, Conrad and Jeremiah. She's been going to the beach house since she's been born. She's always been in love with Conrad, and this is the first summer that things are a little bit different. The boys kind of notice her. So that is the first one of the series. So here's actually some of the footage that I tried to vlog. So yeah, let's cut to the footage. I am going to be starting listening to The Summer I Turned Pretty. This is the first time I'm going to be listening to it on audiobook, so I'm kind of nervous, kind of excited because it is an older book. So we'll see how it sounds. This is iPhone quality. I'm off to get my dinner. So it's February 2nd, it's Super Bowl Sunday. I don't care. But yeah, so I'm hiding my double chin. I'm just going to drive, listen, and we'll check back in. I'm probably going to try to bounce between the physical book and the audiobook. We'll see. It's like a 6-hour audiobook, so it shouldn't take that long, but we'll see. Okay, so it's like 10 o'clock, February 3rd. I took a nap after work because I have bad sleeping habits. I'm like at 44% through the book. I'm really enjoying it, really loving it. Audiobook is super weird and probably not the way I would recommend reading this, but it's fine because it's not messing up with me because I can look past the way the audiobook is. But I would not want someone's first encounter with The Summer I Turned Pretty to be with this audiobook. It's older, and the way it's read is just super awkward, and there's lots of unnecessary pauses. I haven't really done much today besides work and then come home and take a nap. So there's definitely some stuff that I need to do. So I'm gonna listen to the audiobook and kind of clean up a little bit because my room is super nasty. So after that sad vlogging footage attempt, let's get into how I feel about the books. So the first one, The Summer I Turned Pretty. I absolutely adored it. I kind of forgot that the way the book was told, so in this like back and forth timeline, so like the past is like woven into like the present in like memory format, and it's done in such a seamless way that like I honestly forgot. Like I was trying to remember, I was like, there's so much, you get so much information in this book, and just like the way that Jenny Han like does this is just perfection. Like, it's so amazing. It feels so natural, even though there's so much like background and information that we're getting in all of these stories. It just seems so natural. I feel like having so many different jarring flashbacks would seem jarring, but the way that it's just done in here isn't. One of the things I was really afraid of going into this is that I was going to think it was going to be really childish, and I know that people say it's like, it's young adult, like they're children, but there's a difference between it being young adult and then the voice being so immature and to the point whiny, and there's differences. Like, you can tell when a main character is, you know, just young and when a main character is super annoying. And Belly is somehow both. She is young and super annoying, but it's very self-aware in the sense that, yeah, it's again done in the light where it's trying to prove that, yes, she is young and she is annoying, but it's because she's young. And I think the reason that this works so well is because we get so much backstory and we get to see growth, but not in a linear like way. We get to see it in a very choppy format. We get to see her when she's super whiny and super young, and then we get to see her now where she's a little bit better. You know, as the story goes on, we get to see it even more growth. I also think it's really important that we have established like importances for her. Like, her most important thing and most earth-shattering thing is like Conrad, and you know, whether or not he likes her, or like her feelings for him. It's like the biggest, you know, deal. It's her whole world, and as a teenager, like, you could, you know, if you put yourself back in that shoes, you remember that. You remember first loves or boyfriends and girlfriends being the end-all be-all. But one of the things I like about this book is that because it does deal with much heavier topics, she does get to see and grow as a person, that there are heavier things in the world. It's really interesting to see a young person, I believe she's like 16 in the book, you know, dealing and coming to terms with the fact that the world is much wider than you think. And so that's one of my favorite things about this. So if you can't tell, I absolutely loved it. It's still a 5-star read for me. It's perfection. I absolutely love it so much. So good. I cried. It's amazing. I wanted to keep this a spoiler-free kind of thing so you could just watch me either love or hate my favorite books. But I decided to read the rest of the series, and so it's really hard to keep spoilers when you're reading a series. So if you actually want to read The Summer I Turned Pretty, I would just, you know, leave the video now. Come back after you finish. Because now we're going to talk about the rest of the series, and to do that I have to spoil stuff. If you watched, thank you, I appreciate it. So now we're going to get into spoiler stuff. So, the big plot point in this is that Susanna has cancer, and her cancer has come back, and she is dying, and Conrad, being the older boy, is struggling with this because they're still kids. I think he's like 17 in this. So he's still very young, at a very life-changing point in his time anyways. So to have his mother be dying in front of him is even more life-changing. And so he's struggling with this, and Belly doesn't really know, and so she's struggling with something on a less grander scale. I thought this book ended with Susanna dying, but it actually doesn't. This book starts with it. But I read this knowing that she did, and I got to see like all of the foreshadowing for it, and it broke my heart every time I read it. But as we wrap up with this book, Belly and Conrad kind of come together, and they do have lots of emotion, and it kind of ends with them meeting not during the summer. So with It's Not Summer Without You, it starts off with saying that Susanna has died, and this will be the first summer that Belly's not going to the beach house. And she it does continue with a dual timeline. I don't enjoy it as much in here, just because it's not doing it for the same reason, in my opinion. It's just following suit of the first novel. But you get to see her in the first summer, like, since Susanna died, and then you get to flashback to her and Conrad, like, kind of having a really brief relationship, and it kind of goes back and forth between her kind of, like, moving forward, and then what happened between them. And I think that it could be perceived that Belly is being super rude and mean and cruel for still being so wrapped up in the idea of Conrad when Susanna's dead. Like, that's her essentially second mother, and that's his mother. There were times where almost I was like, are you serious right now? Like, his mother just died and you're still so preoccupied by this boy. Like, where are you grieving at? And then I realized that was her grieving. She's not processing it, and all of her focus is going into Conrad. So the second book just follows them and their grief and the relationships they have with each other and growing up. And the same can be said about the third one. It's again just the aftermath, loss, growing up, changing. I will say that my reviews did change a little bit for the last one. The last book was very much super dramatic and a little bit like unnecessary. Like, it didn't have to be as dramatic as it was. I still really enjoyed it. It just wasn't as amazing as I remember it being, and a lot of that has to do with me growing up and no longer siding with the main character anymore, because in the third book she's 18 and she's like, I'm getting married. We're getting married and we're gonna buy this and we're gonna do this. And even though in the book it literally shows them like not being able to afford anything and like them coming to terms with the realities of it and not relying on daddy's money, I still found myself the entire time like siding with the mother and being like, what are you doing? Again, still really loved it, but I did end up lowering it down to like 4 stars instead of 5. So all in all, in the end, yes, I still do love The Summer I Turned Pretty, and I still will recommend it. Minimal change in how much I love this. The last one, I like it a little bit less, but the first one has my heart. And honestly, I think if I reread any of them, it will always be the first one. Storytelling in the first one is just so amazing and magical and just a perfect book to read any time of the year. If you want to read it in the summer because it's a summer book, winter to warm you up, there's never a bad time to read this book. And now I'm hoping to get all of the like newer covers because they're very pretty. So I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope to get better at the whole vlogging part. I'm just not a very interesting person, but maybe for my next round I will have a lot better footage or I'll do more. So yes, thank you for watching.